the third grade Your Turn practice book. We're going to work on pages 23 through 25 today. Read the passage. Use the ask and answer question strategy to be sure you understand what you read. Joseph Bruchak. Growing up near mountains. Joseph Bruchak grew up in the mountains of New York. He lived with his grandmother and grandfather. Young Joseph loved to go with his grandfather everywhere he went. His grandfather showed him how to walk softly through the woods and how to fish in the lakes and rivers. As a child, Joseph spent time working in his grandparents' store. When he made mistakes, his grandfather would never shout or yell at him. Instead, he would talk to Joseph about what had happened. That way, Joseph could know how to do better the next time. During the winter, farmers would come to the store. They would sit around the stove and tell Joseph stories. While growing up, Joseph loved to read and write. Joseph's grandmother kept bookshelves in the house full of books. There was always plenty to read. He liked to read storybooks about animals. He also liked reading poetry. He even wrote some poems of his own. One time, he wrote a poem for his teacher. She was very proud. Page 24. Abinecki Storyteller. Joseph's grandfather was an Abinecki Native American. Joseph became interested in stories told by the Abinecki. When he was in college, Joseph would sometimes visit Native American elders. He would listen to them tell stories. These stories were fun to listen to, but they also taught great lessons about life. Later, Joseph started to have children of his own. He wrote down the stories he heard. Then he read them to his 2 sons. Soon after that, Joseph began to write children's books. These books told the stories of the Abinecki and other Native American peoples. Abinecki Indian Tribes, Adirondack Mountain Range, New York, Saratoga Springs, New York. Map of Joseph Bruchak's homeland. Helping others. In the 4th grade, Joseph's teacher told him, "Whatever you want to do, you should do it." Joseph wanted to write and help others, and that's just what he did. First, he began to write stories. These stories taught children about being kind. They also taught children to care for the earth. Then, Joseph went to schools all over the United States. He read his stories to children. Now, Joseph helps other writers share their stories. Today, Joseph spends time in his garden. He has gardens all around his house. The inside of his house is full of many plants. Joseph has been all over the world, but he still lives in the hometown where he grew up. "It is a place I love," says Joseph. He still likes to walk through the woods and mountains. Every day, he gets ideas for brand new stories. Now reread the passage and answer the questions. So now's a good time to pause the video and go back and read the story one more time. Right, when you come back, number 1, what happened during the winter at Joseph's grandparents' store? So we're going to go back in the story, and we're going to find the part about the winter. So here it says, during the winter, farmers would come to the store. They would sit around the stove and tell Joseph stories. So what happened in the winter? Farmers visited the store and told stories. Number 2, what happened next after Joseph read stories to his sons? So we're going to go here, and it says, then he read them to his 2 sons. Soon after that, Joseph began to write children's books. So after he read stories to his sons, he wrote children's books. So Joseph wrote children's books. Number 3, reread the 5th paragraph. What did Joseph do after he began to write stories? So we're going to go in here and count our paragraphs. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to reread this 5th paragraph, and we're going to see what did he do after he began to write the stories. In the 4th grade, Joseph's teacher told him, "Whatever you want to do, you should do it." Joseph wanted to write and help others, and that's just what he did. First, he began to write stories. These stories taught children about being kind. They also taught children to care for the earth. Then Joseph went to schools all over the United States. So first he began to write, and then he went to schools all over the United States and read his stories. So after that, Joseph went to schools all over the USA and read his stories to children. B, work with a partner, so mom, dad, brother, sister, someone in your house. Read the passage aloud. Pay attention to rate. Stop after 1 minute. Fill out the chart. So the rate is kind of the speed that you're reading. So after you read the first time, let's say you read all the way to this word here. That would be 137. And I know I made 2 mistakes in that reading, so I'm going to put 137 my first time, 2 mistakes, so 7 minus 2 is 5, 135. Now I'm going to read it again, and maybe the next time I read, I get to 138, I get to this word, but I made no mistakes that time. So 138, no mistakes, so it's the identity property, 138.